Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. We talk about Blu-rays here. And one thing we love is Warner Archive. Another thing I know we love is a sale. And so this will be a quick video. I'm going to fly through these because I just want to offer some recommendations real quickly. But Movie Zing is having a, I believe, 4 for $49 sale on the Warner Archive titles. This will be stuff that is, I believe, 90 days or older. So probably nothing from before January this year, but, you know, a lot of the stuff I'm going to call out is going to be older titles. One that I don't have handy right now that I want to recommend right off the top that I think, yeah, that's a last year title, is Wichita with Joel McCrea as Wyatt Earp, a really great Western, one of my favorite discoveries of last year. Really, really high recommend for that, for Westerns. I'll get to some more Westerns, but a lot of this stuff has been out for a little while, but if you're looking for titles that, I think are fun, that I think you might like, these are some favorites of mine. I'll start with Fandango. Kevin Costner, Judd Nelson, very great road trip, post-college, really, really good stuff. Written and directed by Kevin Reynolds, who would go on to do Robin Hood and Waterworld and things like that. But this is the origin of that, and a really great Kevin Costner role. A favorite of Quentin Tarantino's, I remember, but just a great story about some guys in the late 60s that are part of I can't remember if they're part of a frat or not, but they go on a trip to retrieve something. And it's sort of an adventure, and it's really a great movie. A big fan of this one. That's Fandango. Let's see here. Gumball Rally is one that I like very much. This is a wild and crazy race across the country from New York to, I want to say Los Angeles, but it's like Long Beach or something. The Queen Mary. And it's a whole group of people that do this. It's like a secret race. They're racing on the roads across the country. It's a really fun group. It has let's see here, Michael Cera's in headlines basically, but then you have Gary Busey, Stephen Keats, Tim McIntyre, Joanne Neal, Nicholas Pryor, and Raul Julia. Raul Julia is really great in this. He's on the cover there in his like Italian Ferrari or whatever. But if you like Cannonball Run type stuff, it's a Mad World kind of stuff. This is a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of Gumball Rally. Quick Change. Really great Bill Murray comedy from director Howard Franklin. Actually, Bill Murray and Howard Franklin directed this one together. And Howard Franklin would go on to do Larger Than Life. And did he do The Public Eye with... I can't remember. But this is a really neat bank robbery comedy. Basically, Bill Murray and Gina Davis and Randy Quaid are bank robbers. They have an ingenious plan, but then they can't get out of the city with the money. And that's kind of the joke of the movie. Jason Robards is one of the cops, I think, looking into trying to stop them. But a really underrated still, but very enjoyable Bill Murray movie. Great to watch with Ghostbusters coming up so soon. Going into the 70s, we have Scarecrow. This is with Gene Hackman and Al Pacino. One of my favorite movies for both gentlemen. And I think Hackman has said that this is his favorite movie he ever did. I could be misquoting him, but I'm pretty sure he says it's his favorite. And I'm pretty sure Pacino holds it in pretty high regard too. It's about two sort of drifters who find each other. And again, it's sort of a road trip dramedy that they're trying to make their way across the country to Michigan, where Gene Hackman character wants to set up a car wash, and we get to know them slowly as they go. Like Gene Hackman's just gotten out of jail, and Al Pacino's character's a merchant seaman who's on the way to see his child that he's never seen since the kid's been born in 5 years. He's got a little present there. He's trying to bring the kid a lamp, but really amazing. Dark movie. It goes a little dark, from Jerry Schatzberg, who Pacino worked with on Panic in Needle Park prior to this. Just a great movie. Love it. Back to the Westerns, we have Ballad of Cable Hogue. This is a Jason Robards, again, film, and it is a Sam Peckinpah movie. I want to say this is among Peckinpah's favorites of his too, but a really great Western with Robards and Stella Stevens. Robards, like, what does it say? It's 1908, the West has changed. Grizzled frontiersman Cable Hogue hasn't. Despite the fortune he's made selling water to thirsty desert travelers, he lies in wait. Someday, two no-account desert rats who long ago robbed Hogue and left him dying and baking the Arizona sand will drop by for a drink. So he's got this way station, and Stella Stevens shows up there. It's kind of a romance, kind of revenge story, but a great performance from Robards and a great movie from Sam Peckinpah. Maybe my favorite Peckinpah movie. Another from the 70s. This is a really great mystery whodunit, The Last of Sheila. This is Herbert Ross, who would go on to do Play It Again, Sam, and a whole bunch of other stuff. This one's written by Stephen Sondheim and Anthony Perkins, interestingly, who used to do mysteries on their own. Really great cast, though. Richard Benjamin, Diane Cannon, James Coburn, Joan Hackett, James Mason, Ian McShane, very young, Raquel Welch. And so Coburn plays, I think, a producer who, at the beginning, there's a hit and run, someone is killed, and he's having all the people that were at that party on this boat trip for his yacht. In some ways, it seems like he's trying to solve who hit and run the woman, and I won't get into the details, but it's a really great mystery, a big influence on Rian Johnson. He said during Knives Out it was a big influence, but if you watch Glass Onion, you can definitely see this movie's a big part of that. My favorite year, a really great, set in the early days of TV, if I recall, Peter O'Toole and Mark Lynn Baker from Perfect Strangers. Mark Lynn Baker has basically been put in charge of managing this wild actor, and goes on sort of an adventure with him in this really great movie, directed by Richard Benjamin, who of course is in Last of Sheila. This is one of maybe Benjamin's best movie as a director, and this has a commentary with him. And there's a commentary with Benjamin on Last of Sheila too, by the way. Let's see here, moving quickly. Running on Empty. This is Sidney Lumet film about two FBI fugitives played by Christine Lottie and Judd Hirsch, who have a family of two boys, one of which is River Phoenix, and they just move around to try to stay ahead of the FBI, changing their identities all the time, and they run into a place where suddenly their son, River Phoenix, is appreciated for his piano playing and might be able to go to Juilliard, but that would mean they'd have to separate from him, and it's this whole big thing. But a really, really moving film, and one that I cry at the end of every time, and I absolutely adore. Incredible performances all around. Also has Martha Plimpton as sort of the love interest to River Phoenix. Really neat. Great movie. Let's see. One Crazy Summer. This is the follow-up to Better Off Dead from the great Savage Steve Holland, who also did How to Get into College. Better Off Dead is the one people know, though, and this is a real direct line from that. You also have John Cusack in this film. He's playing a different character, but it's a very similar kind of movie and a similar kind of sense of humor. It also has Demi Moore and Bobcat Goldthwait spending the summer on an island that I'm forgetting the name of right now. But a very cute, and if you like Better Off Dead and you haven't seen this, it's right up the alley of that one. And this has a commentary from Curtis Armstrong, who's also in the movie, and Bobcat and Savage Steve. I love Savage Steve. I think he's a great guy, and I love that this is on Blu-ray. Some Came Running. This is a Vincent Minnelli film. In fact, I'll pull out the other Vincent Minnelli film I recommend too. This one's from 59, I want to say. 58. But a really great performance from Sinatra, one of Dean Martin's best performances. Shirley MacLaine, I think even maybe won an Academy Award for this. I can't remember. Martha Heyer, Arthur Kennedy. Sinatra plays a soldier who has come through a joke. His soldier buddies put him on a bus to his hometown where his brother runs a local jewelry shop or bank or something. I think it's a bank because he deliberately doesn't put his military check into the bank. He and his brother have their differences. He's got a history with this town that he doesn't particularly like. He wants to get out of there, but he meets Shirley MacLaine, and she's into him. She actually rides the bus with him, and I think he promised to marry her even or something on the bus because he was drunk. He was really drunk when he got put on the bus. But he meets Dean Martin, who's a gambler, and Martha Heyer is a local gal he's interested in, and it is based on a novel by James Jones, widescreen, really good stuff. The other one that I love from Vincent Minnelli is The Clock. And this is from the 1945. Stars Judy Garland and Robert Walker. Robert Walker, of course, a lot of people know from Strangers on a Train. Really great in that. He's a really sweet character in this one. He is a soldier on leave for the day in New York, and he literally gets run into by Judy Garland. She trips over him at the bottom of an escalator and breaks her heel. And then he feels terrible. He tries to get her heel fixed, and then he kind of keeps asking her to hang out, and eventually they set up a date, and it becomes this really wonderful, romantic, all-in-one-night kind of movie. Beautiful film, and from what I understand, Vincent Minnelli himself was falling in love with Judy Garland as he was making this. Of course, they would be married, and Liza would be a result of that, and but anyway, the way he shoots her in this, you can just see how he was falling in love with her, and it's a beautiful, beautiful romantic film. I love The Clock. Okay. Let's see. More comedies. I love Night Shift, Ron Howard's film Night Shift with Henry Winkler and, of course, the great Michael Keaton in an early comedic role, one of his breakout roles. Henry Winkler's a guy who's been stuffed onto the night shift at the city morgue, and Michael Keaton's like a dude who's helping him out, and he's got all these great ideas. He's got this incredible energy. I love him in this. They get the idea to start running a prostitution thing out of the morgue using the morgue cars, and it's a wacky screwball, but it's great. It's one of my favorite Ron Howard movies. I love that this is on Blu-ray as well. Not a comedy, but an interesting horror movie, Wolfin. This one stars Gregory Hines and Albert Finney. Kind of a werewolf movie, but also has Tom... I want to say somebody else is in this that I'm blanking on right now. Edward James Olmos. Tom Noonan, I think, shows up. But great sort of mystery wolf movie taking place in sort of burnt out part of New York. That's a really solid and enjoyable horror film if you haven't seen that one. Waiting for Guffman, of course. Christopher Guest really blowing up with this one, doing his take on the Spinal Tap thing, all about a town putting on a show, a play, and he plays Corky, and he's sort of setting up the play, and just a classic of its time now, and really well worth your picking up. This has commentary from Guest and Eugene Levy, and optional additional scenes with Levy and Guest commentary as well. The beginning of this whole cycle for them, would lead to Best in Show and other things. Judgment Night, very great thriller with Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding Jr., Dennis Leary in a wonderful villain role. It's a story of Jeremy Piven is the other one in this. Sort of a group of guys on the way to a boxing match. Jeremy Piven plays the guy who gets all the deals done, and he's able to get them an RV to drive to the boxing match. They're near Chicago. They end up having to get off the freeway, and they get stuck in a bad neighborhood. There's a murder that they witness, and Dennis Leary's gang must find them and stop them from ever talking about the murder. So it becomes another one night kind of crazy, intense thing. Has a really great soundtrack that had a lot of artists collaborating between hip hop and rock. Really love the soundtrack to Judgment Night. Really enjoy that one. Let's see here. Big Wednesday. This is a great John Milius film. My favorite John Milius film, actually. Based a lot about in his life. He was a surfer, and he spent a lot of time in Hawaii surfing. And so this is the story of three surfers played by Jan Michael Vincent, William Catt, and Gary Busey, and sort of how they come up together at the end of high school, and then Vietnam becomes a thing, and sort of where their lives progress over that. And really great stuff. Kind of his American Graffiti, but over a much longer period of time, and for my money, better than American Graffiti. That's just me. But I absolutely love this movie. Another Tarantino favorite. This one has a commentary from Milius and a retrospective doc as well. Joe versus the Volcano, a 90s classic. Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, Brain Clouds. Just a delightful comedy about two people having to jump into a volcano. And it is a wonder. This one, written by John Patrick Shanley, who would go on to do Moonstruck and some other stuff. And just a really quirky, idea of this guy who works in a horrible dead-end job, finds out he's got a terminal disease, and then gets paid to go jump into this volcano. But at first, he's going to live it up. And it is really a special movie. This one has a behind-the-scenes doc. And Meg Ryan plays 3 parts, which I thought was really adorable at the time, and I still do. Joe vs. Volcano, more comedy, Night at the Opera. Marx Brothers, when they jumped from Paramount to MGM under the guise or the help of MGM staff there, it really this was a really successful movie for them. They were able to come up with a successful formula. They would then do Day at the Races, which I don't think is going to be available on the sale, but maybe. I think it's too recent. I think that's this year. But anyway, this one's great. A favorite of Leonard Maltin, and Leonard Maltin's commentary is on this. There's also a documentary, Remarks on Marx, Groucho Marx on the High Gardner Show, 1961, vintage shorts. This one's actually got some nice features. But I love that Leonard Maltin commentary. I'm not sure if it's his original Criterion Laserdisc commentary or a new one that he did, but this is a really great Marx Brothers movie. It has the stateroom scene and the contract scene where they're ripping up the contract. Really good stuff. More Screwball. We have Hudsucker Proxy from the Coen Brothers, co-written by Sam Raimi. Ethan, Joel, and Sam Raimi. Has a very Sam Raimi energy, or Raising Arizona Coen Brothers energy. They don't make movies like this anymore with this kind of frenetic energy. But, very fun Screwball with Tim Robbins as a guy who gets hired by a company because they want the company to tank, but he actually comes up with some ideas that work. And Jennifer Jason Leigh plays like a His Girl Friday, Rosalind Russell kind of reporter. Paul Newman is the head of the company. It's a blast. I adore this movie. I still think it's one of the Coen Brothers' best films to this day, and underrated. No features on that one. Okay. Murder My Sweet. Dick Powell, Claire Trevor. This is a let's see here. Crime Doesn't Play. Philip Marlowe film. One of my favorite noirs, actually. And, outside of Bogart and then Elliot Gould, this Dick Powell, Philip Marlowe is one of my favorites. This has got a really nice noir, twisty plot. Very dark noir, but really, really good stuff. Has a commentary by Alan Silver on it. Pump Up the Volume, just a 90s, late 80s, 90s classic with Christian Slater running a pirate radio station out of his parents' basement, trying to inspire high school students and getting himself in some trouble. And this one, I went from loving it when I was in high school to thinking it was ridiculous when I was in college. Like, oh my God, the problems of a high school kid are so ridiculous now that I'm in college. And now I've come back to it and back to loving it again. So it's ridiculous that I ever didn't love it, but a really great movie, great soundtrack. That was a big deal to me as a kid. Prince of the City. This is Sidney Lumet again. A really great police drama, epically long. This was a 2-tape back in the day when we rented VHS. It was 2 tapes long. It's on 1 disc now, but it's almost 3 hours long. And it is the story of Detective Daniel Cello, who, based on the real story, was going to turn state's evidence against other cops and had to do all kinds of crazy stuff and wear a wire with the cops, and, very in line with Serpico in some ways. But in my mind, certainly lesser appreciated. Some people think the performance by Treat Williams is a little too big. I think it's great. I think this is a great movie. Really good supporting cast as well. But yeah, I love Prince of the City. Was so excited when this came out. This has Prince of the City, the real story, as a feature on it. And then another crime film that I absolutely adore is Straight Time with Dustin Hoffman. As I'm recording this video, Emmett Walsh has just died. And M. Emmett Walsh, one of my favorite character actors of all time. Going back to the Coen brothers, he was in a lot of their movies, including Blood Simple, which is great. And one of the things I love about this movie is this is the impetus for M. Emmett being in Blood Simple, is he plays Dustin Hoffman's parole officer. Now, this is based on a book called No Beast So Fierce by Eddie Bunker, who is Mr. Blue in Reservoir Dogs, but was a real ex-con who wrote books while he was on the inside. And this is based on his book about a guy who gets out of prison and then has a lot of trouble re-assimilating into society and ends up sort of regressing back into criminal activity again. But it is a great performance by Hoffman. The rest of the cast includes Harry Dean Stanton, Teresa Russell, Gary Busey. It is really cool. Jake Busey's in this as his kid. An absolutely powerful, dark, noirish crime film that I love. Tarantino, obviously a fan of this one as well. Absolutely adore this film. And this has commentary by Dustin Hoffman and director Ula Grosbard and a vintage featurette, Straight Time. He wrote it for The Criminals. I think that has to do with Eddie Bunker, who's also in the movie briefly as well. But this was a big, big win for me when this came out on Blu-ray. And then lastly, I think this one is eligible. This is a more recent discovery for me, The Devil Doll with Lionel Barrymore and Maureen O'Sullivan, directed by Todd Browning. Master of the Macabre Todd Browning, Freaks, which has come out from Criterion recently, created this spine-tingler about madness, murder, and revenge. Its Oscar-winning screen legend Lionel Barrymore is an escaped convict who uses a mad scientist's shrinking serum to create tiny people. He then disguises himself as a kindly old lady running a toy store so he can secretly send his tiny assassins out to exact revenge on the men who framed him, which got him put in prison because he escapes from prison at the beginning. Anyway, really interesting movie. Lots of interesting visual stuff in terms of the shrinking that I've always liked. So very solid. Definitely worth your time. Anyway, that should do it for this video, and just some ideas for you to check out the Movie Zing sale. I know this is a big time when people buy Warner Archive titles, so if there's any of these that you don't already have, they might be worth your time. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.